All right, guys. Welcome to D-Win Live. It is the most dynamic community of top-performing dealership professionals, subject matter experts, and leading-edge allied industry vendors that we have in the automotive vertical today. You know, our goal is to gather and share ideas, information, inspiration. And today's episode is going to be brought to us by our good friends in Kentucky, the team at J&L Marketing. And if you're looking for digital marketing solutions that don't just drive traffic, but actually bring qualified in-market buyers to your dealership, make sure you reach out to these guys today. You can check out their website at www.jnlmarketing.com. Tell them that Sandy sent you so I can get my big in the mail. And it's not money, it's cigars and bourbon. That's all I care about these days. It's also brought to you by the Killer Closer Blueprint, the #1 selling skills development tool in the business, baby. Go to www.killercloser.now.site for more information about our free Zoom event Friday, February 19th at 12 p.m. And tell a colleague or friend that happens to need a little help in that regard. In the meantime, we got an awesome episode today. As a matter of fact, the good folks at Cox were kind enough to put us together with somebody who I believe is, or two folks who I believe are on the bleeding edge in terms of what we're doing in end-to-end contactless or digital retailing. Look, it's the way of the business here today. So we've got Cole Frankman, who's the Chief Operating Officer at Frankman Motor Company in Sioux,
Sandy,
South Dakota.
Well,
yes, sir. Yes,
okay.
Sir.
You said, you said South Dakota, right?
That's correct.
I was concerned when you saw the SD, you were going to say San Diego, but go ahead.
Yeah, it would have been like my Family Feud Steve Harvey moment, right? Absolutely. Anyhow, Frankman Motor Company was founded in 1998. It was a small family business. They were on a 1-acre site that had a converted 2-stall garage for an office, and they've grown the business since then to covering over 5 states. They're the largest independent dealer in a 5-state area, and they've done almost 50,000 units sold over that period of time. You know, they focus on treating people like individuals and not like numbers. As a matter of fact, the company motto is, when you're at Frankman's, you are a person, not a number. They stock virtually every make and model, and they provide full service after the sale. So it's really an independent operator that operates like a true franchise car dealership. And they've also got a collector car department. And I want to get into that a little bit because I think that gave them a bit of an edge or a leg up on other independents, where they actually ship vehicles from, you know, the teens, the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, all the way up to present day, to every state in the U.S. as well as multiple countries around the globe. And that, I think, is what gave them a great edge, as I said, in handling this contactless, frictionless delivery that we see today. And so I'm really excited to talk to our man Cole. Certainly COVID and the pandemic accelerated and acted as a catalyst for that type of business. And then we've got a special guest panelist, Jessica Stafford. She's the Senior VP of Consumer Solutions at Cox Automotive. She's leading 2 of the most powerful consumer brands in the retail market today. That's AutoTrader and Kelley Blue Book, 2 tiny little operators that you may have heard of in the past. She's passionate about ensuring that these brands stay at the forefront of both innovation and superior client value.
Who were those 2 companies again, Sandy?
I think you may have heard of them, AutoTrader and Kelley Blue Book.
All right.
She recently led the transformation to the all-new AutoTrader platform, redesigned to achieve a faster, more personalized online shopping experience. She is really, at this point, I think, driving the Cox Automotive retail solution, and that's going to bring together all their brands: AutoTrader, Kelley Blue Book, VIN Solutions, CRM and desking tool, as well as DealerTrack's digital contracting platform. And so I'm excited to bring them on today and talk a little bit about what's happening in their business.
You know, you brought up Cole's advantage over other independents. I would argue what he was doing prior to COVID, and then obviously what COVID accelerated, probably gave him not only an advantage over other independents, but over a lot of new car franchises as well. And so I'm very excited to talk about this because what he's accomplished and what he's doing, he's very customer centric. Yep. You know, he's not product centric, he's customer centric. And that's really what this whole, end-to-end digital retailing, I guess, topic on this show is all about, really. So let's do our hype video and then we'll bring him in.
Got it.
All right. All right, let's get this show on the road, everybody. Welcome to D-Win. First off, this is a discussion amongst dealers, general managers, service managers, marketing managers. We want a lot of interaction, a lot of Q&A.
The recalls to me was free money. It always was. It just had to be marketed correctly. So, just put a plan together and then you have to put it into execution. But you really have to have more than one approach. You just can't mail something out and hope somebody answers the phone. You can't measure that. I like to be able to measure the result, making sure if I send out how many emails, how many people open the email.
Talk about overlooked opportunities. Every dealer's got businesses that surround them where there's opportunities and they overlook them or maybe just don't put out the effort. I don't want to say put out the effort, but maybe not think about it because it's not in the norm, right? And so I love that. What are you guys doing to kind of count? That's one thing I like about recalls. It's because it's marketing that I know is extremely relevant right now.
Right. So the question is, do we make the recommendations or do we not?
Correct.
I believe that you have to. I think you're obligated to tell a customer that their vehicle is in great condition or it needs repair. I've always looked at it like, every car on a lift is somebody's life. And whether it's 10 years old or 10 months old, we have to make sure that we're letting customers know that their BMWs or their Minis are in good operating condition. And if they're not, sometimes we have to have that conversation as well.
All right. Welcome, Cole. Welcome, Jessica. How are you?
Great. So good to be here. Thanks.
Yep. All right. So Sandy did a great job introducing you guys. So hopefully the audience is well aware of who we're talking to. I'm sure they are. Let's dive right in. We've got a lot of good questions. So Cole, let's start off with you a little bit. In your opinion, what's the relationship between, say, 2020 and 2021 in terms of like your outlook? Are you bearish? Are you optimistic? Are you bullish? What is it?
I would say we're optimistic. 2020, obviously, the first part of it was, I don't know how this is going to go. The first few months were kind of tiptoeing. We're from South Dakota, so we didn't have a lot of the lockdowns or some of the shutdowns that other dealerships experienced. So for us, it kind of went from, we're doing a lot of sight unseen, long distance deals with classics all the time. 2020 was like taking that with late models and cranking it up to 10. It just kind of exploded. And typically we had like one guy who was arranging transports here and there. Then our GM had to get involved, and now it's like a full-time job. Into January of this year, it doesn't seem to have stopped. And I think like year over year, January, we're up 25 to 30% as far as volume cars are concerned. The mix of cars is changing. The price point of cars is changing as it does every year, and no matter where you're at. But the volume is up, and I feel like where consumers may have been freaking out 2020, as most everyone was, then getting adapted to a lot more of the, remote working became normal. Now remote car buying, I think, isn't weird as much anymore. And I think it's the way you do things, or at least you do most of it remote, and then you might just walk in and, sign here, have a good day, see you later, thanks. But overall, my outlook for 2021 is hopefully it should be the same or better, because now there's less uncertainty, I think.
Well, I look back and I sit there and I know about your process in terms of selling and delivering and or shipping cars all across the world for a long period of time. And as COVID comes about, all of a sudden you're able to take a process that you've kind of fine-tuned for the most part over the years and apply it to, hey, why aren't we doing this in terms of an everyday thing? And so before we get into some further questions from you, Jessica, let me ask you, So you guys have done a recent study at Cox, and it really goes to the customer satisfaction in terms of buying a car. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? And then let's get into the specifics about this end-to-end retailing.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like you said, and Cole was just talking about it, shoppers expect a seamless digital experience in everything that they buy, right? I mean, we're all consumers also, and that's how we shop for things. And so while for years in the industry, we've talked about ways to get more digital, I mean, Cole's ahead of the game, right? But so for so long, we've been talking about digital retailing tools, digital buying tools, even just ways to contact, be ready to text with a customer, be ready to chat online with a customer. They don't want to pick up the phone as much anymore. They don't want to walk into your dealership and spend as long of a time as they might have in the past. And so, of course, with COVID last year, to your point earlier, it just accelerated this change that we had been seeing for a long time. But all of a sudden, we had so many people in our industry that were thinking, okay, I got to do something about this now. And I have to meet the needs of a consumer because they're used to ordering, dinner to their front door, groceries to their front door. I can order running shoes. And now I want to be able to shop and compare and price out a vehicle and do a test drive at home. And to your point, Cole, a lot of them they still want to see, touch, feel the vehicle, of course. And oftentimes they're cool walking in to do that final part of the deal. But they need so much more of that shopping process online now. And so you're right, Scott, the study that we did at Cox was called the Digitization of End-to-End Retail. And what it showed was that consumer satisfaction with the car buying process spiked, literally the word spiked in 2020, which is so weird. I mean, among so many other weird things that we all went through for the first time last year. But we all know this in our industry. Consumers don't love the process overall. Some of them do, but overall, there's a lot of pain points in the process. It takes longer than they want it to. Sometimes they feel that it's not as transparent. And we've got a ton of great dealers out there that are doing a really good job. But what last year did was it forced us all to make it that much more digital. And so when it worked that way, consumers spent a lot less time in the dealership. They were able to work through a lot of their process digitally. And so that consumer satisfaction went up. And so, we anticipate seeing that continue. And, shame on us as an industry if it doesn't, because we need to carry this momentum forward. We saw, 70% of car dealers added some type of digital retailing tool last year, which is huge. So, this year in 2021, we'll end up with more dealerships offering those digital buying tools than those that don't, which is a really big kind of shift in the dynamic for us in our industry.
So you guys work with a lot of dealers. Let me ask you this. What are some of the biggest challenges you see dealers? All right, let's say I've got 3 stores and I want that's it. I've made the decision. I'm going to do digital retailing. So I'm one of these 70% last year, right? Mm-hmm. Let's just say that. By the way, I've been doing it much longer than that. But
Scott was around when
I'm not a late adopter.
All right. Remember when they used to crank the engine, Jessica? I started right about them.
But hypothetically, if I'm in that 70%, what are some of the challenges you see that are most common for dealers that are just starting this process?
I think the biggest challenge is getting over the operational shifts and changes. It's not if you build it, they will come type of solution, or if you buy it or implement it, they will come. You can't just put these tools up on your website or on third-party sites and expect them to work perfectly. Number one, you got to tell people about it because, let's face it, consumers don't expect our industry. They don't expect dealers to offer those types of tools yet. They're delighted and surprised when they do, but we got to get out there and tell them about it so that they come and use it. And then you got to be ready to communicate with those customers the way they want to communicate. I mentioned that a little bit earlier with chat and text, because that's one of those classic challenges. So even if I start to do some of the deal online and maybe I submit an enhanced lead that has a bunch of that digital buying information in it, but then a dealer calls me back and says, when can you come in, right? And so there's those classic turning points that we really have to focus on. And that's where we see most of our customers fail, is when they're just not ready to totally embrace this new way to operate, be willing to communicate with customers the way they want to communicate, and smooth over that kind of off online to in-store experience. And then also just pick up customers where they left off. So shoppers out there, they don't want to go through this whole process online, and then they do come in to do that last step in the process and they have to start all over again. So a lot of those pieces are important. And for us at Cox, that's why the tools we're creating, the features and the tools and the experiences we're creating are meant to be as connected as possible so that we make it easier, right? Create personalized experiences for customers out there, and then connected kind of back end tools for dealers to make that process easier when you're ready for it.
I like that you're taking cues from outside automotive, Jessica, to be honest with you, because there are a lot of lessons. Scott has been, focused on that for years. It's something he talks to Jamil and I about on a regular basis, as there are great success clues that businesses outside of retail automotive have left behind for us to learn from.
That's right. And that's where the consumer behavior comes into play, because consumers are used to having those experiences. So for a long time, we used to say, well, in automotive, we're different. It's a big purchase. It takes a longer time. So no one expects that, real estate and automotive, right? No one expects those to be as seamless and simple as buying some dog food. But these days, I mean, those things are coming together. And so to your point, you really have to lean into what the customer is looking for.
I have a question for Cole. Cole, specifically, how did the collector car piece of your business prepare you and give you an edge in terms of doing business today once COVID hit and catalyzed the contactless experience?
Great question.
I would say I probably couldn't have answered that question 6 months ago, but I added a new salesman. It's like the first salesman we've added in 20 years. We had a guy retire, and I was trying to explain to this new hire that how we're kind of different, and it culminated in basically we don't sell cars, we help people buy cars. I don't think anybody likes buying a car, especially when you get a classic car, because then you're not really talking about the commodity cars. You're not talking about a Nissan Maxima that there's ample amounts on the market at any time. You have something that is specific. It's the only one. You need help doing so. So enter COVID. You take the same attitude and you just apply it to the commodity car, and it becomes, for us at least, an easier process because it is standard. And, if it applies to this Nissan Maxima, it applies to the next Nissan Maxima, et cetera, et cetera. So for us, it was really just about making it, as I know a lot of dealers say this, making it as easy as possible to buy a car, but we actually mean it. We don't want people to have to spend 6 hours here.
You mean I don't have to go to your website, see your whole inventory, and then call for price?
Right.
No, everything's priced as soon as possible. We have everything, as much information as you can imagine. Yeah. I think we have 100 photos and 30-second walk around running video of every car. Once it's fully merchandised and ready to go, it's all there. Tips sometimes. Me and my cousin Dustin, he's GM, we'll have to buy cars. We don't just go to the auctions, we'll buy private, we'll buy from other dealers. And when I get a chance to buy a car from another dealer, it's like, okay, I want to know how other people do stuff. And sometimes it's wonderful. And typically it's the dealers that have the digital retailing, tons of photos, everything's there, the price is there, call them up. A lot of times they are, if they're a new car store, they'll be a one-price store, and then it's just okay, yes or no. But I mean, I've had my fair share. I'm a dealer. I've bought in cars before that I've said, I'll give you my money in 30 seconds, and it takes 3 weeks to get a deal done. And you're like, come on, it's not hard. It doesn't have to be this hard. I'm someone who gets it, and I get frustrated.
Yep.
So I try to take those same things, and I've been doing this for a few years now. So every time this happens, I try to take the same grievances I have and go through every lead we see, every lead my salesman encounter, and we better not be doing this. Because if I'm annoyed by it, I guarantee you the person that doesn't do this on a daily basis is either annoyed or, really stressed out about it because they don't know. So repeat verse 1, verse 2, you do that over and over and over again, you've arrived at what I keep striving for, which is a truly stress-free buying experience, because we don't have quotas. We're unique in that fact. We don't have the quotas to meet for a manufacturer. We don't have to flip you between a new and used car depending on whatever. I guess it never stops. I would say we were ahead of the game going into COVID, so it wasn't really a change. But I know even dealers in my town, Sioux Falls, there's about 250,000 people in here and surrounding. It's a pretty big town. I know people that have gone to like a new car store and will point at a car on the showroom and be like, how much? Well, it depends if you're financing. Well, it depends if you're going to trade. It's
Right,
like, you can't, you're not going to tell me a price. I don't know if I'm going to do those things. Like, I'm sorry, we won't tell you. And real customers come to us and tell us this. It's just like, oh, you know.
The struggle is real. I'm telling you, the struggle is real. We've got a great question from Mark Gregg. He says, what percentage of the customers buy totally online? And before I ask you guys for your input, I want to say something, because it's come out in a couple of different rooms on Clubhouse. If you're not on Clubhouse, you need to get on Clubhouse and follow Scott, Jamil, and I. And if Cole and Jessica are there, we'd love to have you follow as well. But we talked about, what does truly online mean? And we know that there's going to be wet signatures in all 50 states, right? So there really is no such thing as the totally online process. So I want to take that myth and wipe it off the table. Let's just talk about I know Brian at Paragon talks about the frictionless experience. Let's just talk about the stressless experience that you referred to before, Cole. It doesn't necessarily have to be completely online at this point in time, because it's not real, but you can make something completely de-stressed and de-risk that experience for the customer. And I believe that is the true objective for most customers, is to reduce and eliminate stress and friction in the experience, not necessarily the quote unquote customer contact points. We got to touch them at some point.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, sometimes words matter, right? It's not necessarily the purchase completely, to your point, online, but it is digital. And I like to use the word on demand. So the idea, through COVID, and now consumers are used to it, so they're going to continue demanding it. When I say on demand, I mean, it comes to me. It's on my terms. It's literally in my driveway if I want it to be, even with a clipboard, right? So there'll continue to be more ways that we digitize this experience beginning to end. But that idea of it being digital helps to connect the dots. So you might still go into the dealership, but if the experience there is digitally enabled, so that you're pulling in all of the information and inputs that I already gave you online, it's my KBB trade-in, and I've already done pre-approval for credit, and I've already told you what add-ons I want, and I've already seen, to your point earlier, Cole, right, like a real price. And I feel confident in it because we've probably chatted back and forth. We've talked about it. And now I'm going to walk into the dealership and just finish it. And you're not going to try to switch me around or do something different. That's a lot of the success, to your point, in making the experience frictionless, seamless, simpler, is the idea that a lot of those digital tools can be used to make it a better experience for consumers, and quite frankly, a more efficient experience for the dealer as well, so they can do it faster, more profitable.
Yeah.
So hey, Cole, I got a lot of questions for you. So my first question is you're now the biggest used car dealership in 5 states, right? And for a lot of dealerships, big focus has become used, especially over the last year, especially with inventory levels lower. So what do you feel like you're doing that most dealerships are not doing?
In addition to the things I was talking about, I think when it comes to used cars, especially for someone that maybe hasn't bought a car in the past 5 years, if you're someone that buying a car every 2 years, you kind of evolve with process. If you haven't bought a car in 5 years, a lot of people come in and, they go, okay, well, last time I bought a car, there was 3 trims. Now there's 17 trims, like on a Dodge Challenger. There's 17 trims. What's the difference between them? How come a bank will finance a lot more on this one, but not this one, even though this one has more options, because the other one's a higher trim, and et cetera, et cetera. I guess a big factor is we spend a lot of our deals are spending trying to figure out what makes the most sense, not necessarily the customers that walk in and say, stock number ABC 123, I want that. That's easy. They've made their decision. They've come across, the information they need. They've done the work. But for someone that comes in and they're torn between 2 and you're kind of crossing between that, my salesman don't really do much selling. It's more so educating. Being like, well, if you go this route, if you go this route, there's so much information online, but I think we are a retail space, but I tell my staff more and more that we're kind of morphing from a retail business to service business. If Tesla is manufacturer to consumer, there's also like 2 ways you can buy that car, and it goes right to you. For us, it's all about the service. And I mean, we're independent. We don't have a brand that makes people, you have to come to us to buy a new GMC or buy the new Chevy. So our business keeps growing. So my thought process has been, well, it must be something. So if it is anything, it has to be the experience the people are having here. I think it's a multitude of many things. I think it's the online aspects of DR. And I think Jessica said the same thing, where it just kind of happens to be online, where it makes sense for these points to happen. We're dealing something with a title, and that means the government's involved, which means certain things have to happen a certain way. You have to have polluting signatures on certain things. Everybody knows that you have to do the insurance part, and you have to buy the car, and you have to worry about the service contract, and you have to do all these things, worry about your trade. But how those happen can drastically change the experience. And I've tried to make it as much as possible. Somebody walks in my store, if they have their ducks in a row, if everything's fine, they've done, everything they can possibly do, they should be in and out of my store in 15 minutes. And that includes a walk over to our service center to meet my service staff.
Wow.
So
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say one thing that you brought up at the very beginning is, how do you do this over the phone? So what you're saying is, one thing that differentiates us is the education, right? We take a different approach. We're not trying to sell them that exact. We're trying to figure out their needs and find the vehicle that's going to fit them from a financing and what they're specifically looking at. What are some things with COVID going on of how you've been able to do that over the phone? Is it videos? Is it FaceTiming? What are some things that you're doing a little differently?
We do a lot of videos now. That was kind of every once in a while we'd have a video. Now it seems like maybe half of every sight unseen deal, they're wanting a video of some sort. As soon as that started picking up, I looked into, well, how hard is it to do a walk around video of every car? It turns out it's not that hard. So we just added that to the step. Then, if we have to do a video, it means it's something specific. It's the underneath, or, the interior in depth, or something like that. I just think every time I see something that it's a recurring question that happens over and over again, it's telling me that I'm not doing my job to merchandise my cars properly. And usually that's above and beyond, because, the typical merchandising is photos, price, description, the basics. If you go on Auto Trader, it ranks it based on a lot of those things. But there's a lot of questions that people still have. And I know it's kind of a lot to ask for dealers to, sometimes people have a lot of questions. But there's one question that keeps coming up and keeps coming up. Either it's specific to that make model, or it's every car. I feel like it was my responsibility to not have my salesman doing busy work, to just do the same task over and over again. If I could just cut that out and have one person take 5 minutes of their day and upload that to our website, it just makes everybody's life easier. Maybe alleviates a question and another step from someone buying a car sight unseen.
I've got a follow-up question for both of you guys right now. So I'll start with Cole and say, Cole, you mentioned a 30-second video, walk-around video before, correct?
Yeah.
And you're doing that on each and every unit that you've got in inventory and online?
Yep. Okay.
So is there a specific structure to that 30-second video that you're following every single time, so it's wash, rinse, repeat?
Yep. He starts on the front passenger side. He does a full walk around of the car, walks up to the driver door, opens the driver door, and does like a pan of the interior so that you can see everything you need to see. Depending on the car, sometimes it's 25 seconds, sometimes it's 35 seconds, but
right.
I just felt like if you go any more than that, you're going to kind of lose people's attention, and they're not going to be like, okay, it's a lot. It's a 5-minute video. I don't really want to see this.
Yeah.
But when I look at dealer sites, some dealers are starting to do this. When I look for a car at a dealer, I like it, so I assume other people like it. But a lot of times you'll see the video, and it's one of those slideshow deals where it's like the computer voice talking over it,
Right.
which is just really bad. And I'm like, okay, that seems
no bueno.
Usually just makes the site slower, which is also annoying. I've just always been a proponent of, like, every photo on my website pretty much is taken of this place. I don't like stock imagery. I'm not a huge fan of stock copy work on, like, vehicle descriptions. I know a lot of vehicle descriptions now is just trim info and options.
Do you take that, while you just said that, do you also apply that to your Google My Business?
The videos specifically?
No, the descriptions and things.
Yes, I try to keep everything updated. I'll even I probably every once a month probably go in and I'll take 100 photos just from my stock of images from my photo bay, and I'll just pick cars that some are classics, some are minivans, just nice pictures of our cars, and I'll upload them. I'll try to upload bios when I can. Obviously, it can be kind of put on the back burner a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you can only reinvent the same script so many times. But if the script is good, I feel like it can last a bit before you have to touch it again.
Yeah. Let me ask you. So, what's different, say, with your description versus the standard stock?
Well,
how are you going to tweak it or change it?
On the cars specifically, or on Google My Business?
The car specifically.
So I'm
going into your. I guess what I'm saying is I'm going into your digital retailing solution, right? So why is your description? How is it going to be different than now? You've got one advantage over the new car dealer, and that is that every car you have is unique and different. Whereas their new inventory, I've got Honda stores. There's only so many different things I can say about my brand new 20 Hondas.
Yep.
Or 50. So but go ahead and.
So I have two people that are full-time only as lot managers and like online merchandisers. So they'll go and they'll option the cars. They take the photos. Like the first day they get here, they take all the photos. They're car guys through and through. We're all used, so we're always looking for the service history, anything that's happened. They find receipts. In addition to, here's the trim and the make and model and every option it has based on the sticker. They'll also add in, a photo. Oh, hey, the transmission was rebuilt 20,000 miles ago. It was this much money.
And where I'm going with this is, why do you do that? I think I know the answer, but why is it that you're going to go? What possessed you to think, oh, maybe we should put this up or we should put that up in terms of those descriptions?
Because the customer's going to ask for it when they come in here anyway.
So important. I was thinking as you were talking, Cole, to jump in here about you mentioned earlier your guys aren't sales guys, right? So all of our stuff, we do a ton of studies with shoppers, right? That's one of the things we can do because we've got millions and millions of people experiencing. And what they always tell us is it's not that they, when we're talking about digital, it's not that they don't want to come in contact with a dealer ever at all. In fact, they want a product specialist. They want someone to help them and advise them on the tech and how to use it the right way. That's the fun part, right, about the vehicle.
Yeah.
And so it all connects, because you mentioned that earlier, and that is so key. Consumers want to understand the vehicle. And so naturally, they're going to look for specific custom comments. The videos you were mentioning earlier, and you mentioned, Cole, that these are the types of merchandising pieces that show up on like an Auto Trader. For us, we launched a new relevance algorithm a couple years ago now, which is totally based on the pieces that consumers want the most. Shoppers want to see this kind of information about vehicles. And we did that. We created the algorithm around that. I mean, obviously, we're still a marketing platform, right? Dealers pay to get their listings on Auto Trader, but we want to help dealers put the right cars in front of the right person at the right time. And so if you create, the right ecosystem here, it creates the right behavior on all sides of our world. And so we saw, like with videos, customers don't care if it's a perfectly polished and produced video. I mean, it shouldn't be super shaky and hard to watch, but they want, a phone video of like you said, your folks that are going around the car, going on the inside. That's real. That's real to a shopper, and they want to experience the vehicle that way. And those custom comments make such a big difference. So, like on AutoTrader, your ranking, you get more points for that kind of stuff. You get more points for videos because, like you said, everybody's not doing that yet. And they should.
And you know what the difference is? It goes back to the customer centric versus the product centric.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
Cole, what you're doing is you're describing a vehicle based on what your customer wants to hear, see, read. And so, I don't know if you did that by strategy or it just comes as instinct to you, because I look at, I can tell you that a lot of things that we did that made us successful, we didn't sit down in a strategy session. It really came from just listening to customers and anticipating, yeah, we better do this because they're going to be asking this and they want that. And that's why I was going with that questioning is you're so customer centric, and all of us, I think we could benefit greatly. I think the whole digital retailing thing is a customer centric movement, right? At the same time, your actions are customer centric. It's not just, so I'm curious, how do you market all this? And like, what are you doing to market all this? Because sometimes we can be customer centric in our actions and still not communicate it right. And so how are you doing that?
So on a local level, it's pretty much the only radio I have anymore is there's like local talk show hosts, and they're pretty big and they have a big following, and two of them bought a car from us, and both of them were like, we want to endorse you. It was great. I have a great experience. I want to talk about you 3 times a week. That's what I like. That's because that's a customer talking to potential customers 3 times a week. That's great. That's like Google reviews times 1,000. I guess the way we market it, obviously, I hope through word of mouth. It's kind of a tough thing, and I sit down with my marketing team twice a month, and it's a conversation of like, okay, how do we say we're stress free without saying we're stress free, because that means we're not stress free. It really comes down to, I think, just taking, like, we advertise that the tasks you have to do don't change based on what your decision is. It doesn't matter, like, your trade's worth what your trade's worth. We'll buy it, we'll trade it, we'll do whatever. Every 10 days, it expires. It's the same thing. You can come in on one car, you can leave with a different car. It doesn't matter. Your trade's worth the same. I do a huge focus on digital retailing. As far as the vehicle in particular, I haven't spent a lot of time pushing Frankman Motor Company. Pretty much all of my focus over the past 2 years has been, how do we get VIN number ABCD in front of the right person? How can it be priced right? Does it look right? Because I think most people start the shopping on a conglomerate site, on AutoTrader, and I don't know anyone who has ever been like, A&G Motors, what do they have on AutoTrader? Because that's kind of weird. They're looking for the specific car, and they find it. Then they might come back, they might leave, they find the car, then they go to the dealership site, if they go further than that, and then they kind of make judgments based on that. I've taken away pretty much every cluttery thing on our website possible. Our digital retailing tool is the only way to contact us on a vehicle, other than we have like 2 call to action buttons. It's just because we have classics, and the digital retailing tool obviously doesn't work with a 4-digit VIN number. So we have to something so that somebody can contact us on that. But it's like, it only comes up once digital retailing doesn't show up. Then it gets brought all the way to the top, and then people can see it. I've noticed a lot of times you can go to a website and it's just like everything. There's 70 different ways to ask about a car. There's e-pricers, there's discounts, there's check if this is available. I think my opinion has been the digital retailing tool. A lot of people have worked on it, and there's a lot going on there, and it seems kind of foolish to have that next to a form submission with first name, last name, phone number, email. So as soon as I started taking that stuff away, wouldn't you know, all the form submissions started going up. I actually got people to use the DR tool, and then they'd be in my store telling my sales managers, yeah, your website's actually really nice. That's really great. It seemed like the normal experience, which is, I don't really expect customers to say that. I don't, it seems like someone's forcing them.
Yeah. Easy gets done. And it also, when you go to a lot of sites, not just auto, but obviously auto can be guilty of it. It's very noisy on the site. And we don't want to sit here and burn up a lot of energy trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
All right. So,
the brain specifically is, Scott, we've read that in the book by Donald Miller. Brain does not want to burn calories having to think through stuff like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I can answer your question. Oh, sorry, Jessica, you can go.
Well, I was just only going to say, Cole, to be respectful of you, you're 12 minutes over your half hour that you said you had.
You're okay.
So, okay, good.
Just send them an invoice for the overtime, Cole. Send it to J&L Marketing in Louisville, Kentucky. Just send them the invoice.
Along with one of those nice classic cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess I should answer your question you asked me. I guess you asked me how I advertise the way we do things. And I guess the answer is I don't really advertise it. I don't advertise that specific thing, I guess. All my advertising is just trying to push the vehicle out there in the best way possible. I probably should do more like branding. This is what we do. I'm in the process of doing it, but it wasn't a primary focus at all. Because I don't think people's loyalty today is based on a dealership, unless that dealership knocks their socks off when they buy a car.
Well, I go back to your tagline, which is, when you were at Frankman's, you're a person, not a number. And I'm assuming that if I was to touch somebody on your lots or one of your lots, they would know that. Like, that's something you guys talk about, I would assume, on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're doing it indirectly. So even when you're pushing out the products, by changing the descriptions and making the descriptions and the information you're offering more customer-centric versus product-centric, you're still doing it you're just doing it in a different way.
Yeah. There's a question on the screen. I want to make sure we get to it from Brendan Houston. He says, hi, Cole, are you leveraging social media with your videos and descriptions from the site to your Google My Business, Facebook, and IG or Instagram? He feels that most dealers he's purchased vehicles from fall short on social media, which has a ton of potential. You talked a little bit about the fact that it wasn't a conscious effort. Are you using social media to get vehicles out there and exposed and branding at this point?
So, no, I'm not. I should be. But with everything, I have a particular way about going about things, I guess. If I'm going to do something, I want to do it like all the way, 100%.
Yep.
I know that if I start social media, there's a ton of potential, but I need either time on my plate to do it myself, how I want it, until I figure out how I want it and then hand it off, or I need someone to do it. Because I don't want to be sure that, or the business, we've all seen them, that good social media when you see it, and not so good social media when you see it.
You don't want to be like Sandy and I, where we're just on Clubhouse all day talking back and forth.
Actually, I was going to reference what Trish had said to you regarding your hair. She said either get the transplant or shave it, but commit to one or the other.
But that's a great point though, Cole, because I think oftentimes we think of things like social media or search engine optimization, and we think of them as free, and it's not free. I mean, oftentimes you do pay for it, but also you have to put time, effort, and a lot of work behind it for it to actually work well. So I mean, I totally agree with you. And I think you're also, based on how you're describing it, you're getting those important messages about how you do what you do out in a way that's very one-to-one and specific when you get the right car in front of the right person. Like you said, it sounds like you're probably leveraging a lot of data to do that, have personalized experience on your website, which helps in that whole process. And it connects to what we were talking about earlier, as far as kind of your mind doesn't want to do those steps in the process. We all expect brands, vendors, companies out there to leverage our behavior, our data, to give us a better experience these days. And so I think you're naturally actually doing that through the process.
Hey, Jessica, can I follow up on the question I asked Cole before with respect to the 30-second walk-around videos, which I love because it's short, digestible, it's systematic too, because it's the same thing repeated in terms of structure. How does your website or your websites reward that type of content, or am I fishing where I shouldn't be?
No, absolutely. So the relevance algorithm I was mentioning earlier is a real thing. It's a formula. And so, of course, again, like, we're an advertising platform, so you're going to pay to market on platform like AutoTrader, but for us, we put a lot of value behind the dealers that are doing a great job at those merchandising elements, because that's what consumers are looking for. So the video gives you kind of extra credit, if you will, in that process. And because shoppers are coming to the site looking for that type of content. They navigate through until they get to a video. They spend time with it. They engage with it. Vehicles with videos get higher engagement overall. And so it's a great opportunity on something that I think, like Cole mentioned, it is an added step, but it's not a ton more heavy lifting if you're able to do kind of a simple walk around with a phone. Even at that type of video makes a huge difference. And I think those types of behaviors are what enable this type of digital shopping that we're talking about today. And when we talk about digital retailing tools, I think, one of the questions earlier, and we talked about this, how many, I think the question was like, how many people are really buying a car fully digital? And like you explained, it doesn't necessarily work that way all the time. But I think that's actually a good challenge for us in the industry. Don't necessarily focus on what's happening today, focus on the behavior of what customers want to do, which is what we've been talking about today quite a bit. And, we see tons of data that shows that. We saw 63% more online deal sends, like digital retailing deal sends on our platforms in December of 2020 than January of 2020, 63% more. So just meaning we're seeing this huge momentum of more and more digital car buying. We also, one of our qualitative studies showed 80% of new vehicle shoppers are willing to do 100% of the process online. So what that means is that's what they want. They're asking us to create solutions that help. So let's focus on that so we keep momentum in the right direction. A lot of what our conversation has been today being very customer centric, customer focused, versus too concerned about what they're doing today, because they're only not doing it because it's not possible yet, right?
So, you know what, you used the word, and first off, I do like Brendan's suggestion of leverage, because it's so hard to come up with content. And here you are making these great videos. You might want to set up a process where you go to your Facebook page, obviously post those videos. You can link it back right to your digital retailing solution and increase that traffic flow with that. You've already got the video. That's part of the hardest part about creating the good stuff to post, right? But and then Michael Porro gets up here with his easy, gets done, easy purchase.
Well, you didn't give him credit for the line, Scott.
I did. I put it in the chat. I followed it up.
He stole it, Michael. He stole it, and we know it.
I gave him credit, to your point, Sandy, the first 2 times. After that, I take it as my own.
Right.
So, but you used the word, Jessica, merchandising. I want you to go back prior to the internet, right? We spent as dealers so much time cleaning and moving our cars on the lot and position them just right, just so we could merchandise them for the
we haven't been in the industry as long as you have. You're a little bit older than everybody on here.
This is so it's changed quite a bit over the years.
Moving horses from stall to stall.
So
I was going to say, we won't go back as far as what Sandy had to deal with, but as far as where I did, all right, moving these cars all around the lot, reposition them, all for just the one brief moment that someone just drives by and hopefully looks over and sees our car with the SALE signs up with the raised hood, sale. And so I sit there and I think, digital retailing, wow, has really simplified the merchandise. If it's done right, has really simplified the merchandising aspect of our business to a much wider audience. It's as wide as we want it to be. All right. It's much more effective because it's two-way communication. All right. There is just so much. And so it is so important for a dealer. If I'm shocked, Jessica, and let's face it, COVID probably had a big reason for this, but I am shocked that 70% of dealers added I can't believe that many people didn't have it to begin with going into 2020. That completely shocks me.
Well, it's the resistance to something different, right? And but to your point, I think you make a great point there. Like, think about, like you just said, on the lot merchandising, am I putting the right vehicle in the right place to get in front of the right person who might drive by at this moment, right? And think of how much effort you said was put into that. And the quote unquote data and analytics at the time was like, I think maybe this one is the right one to go here. And so now we've got all of those tools. We can do it, so simple. And with digital retailing tools, we can connect the experiences. For us at Cox, we connect the data. If somebody comes to AutoTrader or Kelley Blue Book, does some searches, then goes to a dealer's website that's powered by dealer.com, they get a personalized experience right off the bat. They've never been to that dealer's website, but we know who they are from a behavior standpoint, right? We know the type of vehicles they were researching. We can give them a more custom, personalized experience right off the bat, which proves to, of course, convert at a higher rate. And so you're right. I mean, we've got these tools in front of us. And I do think, to your point, I mean, I go back a couple years ago and being, talking to a lot of dealers who were really resisting these digital buying tools. It's never going to happen. People just aren't going to buy cars this way. It's just not going to happen.
That's not my market. My market isn't ready for that.
And I mean, think about that, guys. That was, just a couple years ago, those were the conversations. And then it felt like, 2 years ago, the conversation changed to like, I know I got to do it. I'm just not ready yet. I'm not sure yet. Let me see. And then all of a sudden, smack, 2020 happens. And it was like, okay, I got to do whatever I can. And there was this scramble. So that 70%, it's a crazy number because you would have expected so many dealers to already be on board. But I think this was just kind of that last kick and push that we needed to really get us going. But then you've got, dealers like Cole who are ahead of the game. And I mean, I know on our platforms, we saw that those that were ahead and already had these tools in place were thriving off the bat, even in, the deepest COVID times because of the tools that they enabled. They were set up to actually, so many dealers, so many people, right, were just trying to survive. And there were certain businesses that thrived at that time because of being ahead of the curve with digital retailing tools.
So let me ask, and this is basically a question for either one of you. Where do you think the greatest opportunities and challenges are when it comes to end-to-end retailing? Because there's a lot of opportunities. We haven't come close to nailing this and making it perfect, right? And so where for you, I'll ask Jessica.
Yeah, I mean,
what are you guys working on from a tool standpoint that you see? And then Cole, from a retailing side, where are you like, let's start with Cole. Cole, what do you wish the tool, because one of the things we'd ask is, what do we want our digital retailing tools to do, right? So where do you see opportunities that aren't quite there yet that could help, say, Cox even improve it even further?
I mean, I guess I just don't, you can sign a bank contract digitally. You can agree upon everything. Just, that's email. I can email people like the full photo set. I think a lot of the thing that's holding everything up is the stuff that has to be done still. Like, I need a triplicate odometer statement. I have to have a purchase order that's done the carbon print of secured paper that's the South Dakota Dealers Association, Department of Transportation form.
So some of it could be political.
Some of it I think is. I know there's certain states that are changing with COVID, a lot of people, state employees, went home, and they kind of went like, okay, well, cars are still being sold, people have to transfer titles. I know they eased up and they changed a lot of rules to make things easier for dealers, to where like we got to change halfway through where we didn't have to transfer a title. We could just reassign it on the back, which everything was going so slow. It was like, what are we supposed to do? We have this car, we don't have a title. That makes it way faster. I think if we open up a lot of these I have to's and make it more, I guess not deregulated, but deregulated a little bit, changing regulations, I bet you could do a lot more with the digital retailing tool, to the point where like it's truly, I bought the car and it got dropped off on a truck at my house, or I can show up and be like, here's the keys, because that's becoming a common trend. I mean, there's multiple companies advertise that, but even I know people that have bought from companies that's like, they're all about that. And it's like, well, yes, but it's, you still have to do X, Y, Z and this and that and the other thing. And, it does show up on a truck, but it's still buying a car.
I think, to that point, Cole, the kicker is, well, first of all, some of those things, like you mentioned, that were loosened up or changed, sometimes you got to get to a place where we didn't have another choice in our industry, right?
Yeah,
and these totally unprecedented times, as we love hearing that phrase, I know, constantly these days. But, you get forced into adapting. And I think that word adapting is what's key. We had to be flexible and adapt as an industry, as a world, in order to continue business going forward. And so it opened up, all of a sudden it was like, well, this is possible. We just got to modernize and get with it. And so, I think to that point, from our side at Cox, like you said, what are we trying to build to better enable? We think that the best and biggest opportunity is connecting all of the pieces. And so, we just launched something called Complete Retail, which is basically, you look at all of the businesses that are connected through Cox Automotive, and we have this opportunity to connect the experience for consumers. I mentioned earlier, leveraging data across the board, but then, yes.
I have to ask, how long did it take you to look at all the different things that Cox has in us?
I know.
That in itself had to be a whole all-day meeting.
Well, that took a long time. And frankly, we've said this before. I think it's also, frankly, it's taken us a longer time than we wanted to for all of these things to connect, 10 years. But the key is exactly that. There's so many pieces, and it's, we all know it's so complex for so many different reasons in different states and all this. And so at the end of the day, though, I think, again, this last year helped to push us over that hump, right? To say this has to happen. So we just got to figure it out. And so for us, this idea of connecting the dots on the back end, so there's just even the tactical stuff, like literally not having to copy and paste and transfer manually things from one system to the next system to the next system. And then being able to give your customers this, we keep using these words, seamless, intuitive, simple, easy experience, but that happens because of connectivity. And so I think our biggest challenge and our biggest opportunity is to actually connect the pieces. And we're working hard at that. We've got each of these individual pieces. You can partner with us in different ways. You don't have to buy all of them, but they work really well together, which is great. And I think that that's the other part that we all as an industry need to focus on. Digital retailing is not only that final transaction step that we all think of a lot of times. It is the whole process. And so enabling everything from digital shopping to experiencing the vehicle, even more so online nowadays, because you won't be able to spend as much time with it in person, all the way through to the purchase. All of those pieces are important. And so, of course, across AutoTrader, Kelley Blue Book, Dealer.com, DealerTrack, VIN, we're able to connect the pieces between all of a dealer's systems, which we think will really be making a difference going forward.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I often say this, but I think a lot of us in the industry think that the customer experience starts once we start that buying process.
Yeah.
Customer experience starts usually 1 to 3 months prior, when it's the shopping and research experience. And so that's another reason that digital retailing is so important, because the easier we make it, the better the experience is for the customer. That customer experience starts the moment they hit your site. You may never talk to them. You may never even get that chance. And I can tell you, the harder you make it, the more confusing or noisy your site is, the worse that experience is, and the less people come down the funnel to where you actually get an opportunity. And to the point you made earlier, Cole, you've simplified this. You've given more information. You've done it faster. You've done it easier. And as a result, more people have come. Your funnel's widened, right? Instead of looking like this, it looks more, well, maybe not like this, but it looks a lot wider. So more people.
A funnel gets tighter at the bottom, just so you know. It's not like this. That's right Jamil, I know. Every episode. Sorry, Jessica, Cole, my apologies.
So we want to be respectful of everybody's time. We're right at an hour. Sandy, why don't we'll let you do the honors, sir.
All right, buddy, let's bring
And
it
I
home.
always
First
say
of all,
sir to Sandy because he's my elder.
respects his elders. He respects his elders. It's funny because I keep getting email messages and direct messages that ask me how much older Scott is than I am. And I don't know how to answer the question, buddy. It's
well, you should quit emailing your mom. All right.
She won't even watch.
Just pick up the phone.
She can't stand watching me online. She said, I had 53 years of you. I'm done. I want to listen. Let's bring it home. I want to do this. First of all, I want to thank the folks at Cox. I want to give a shout out to Lisa Aloisio because she's the one that has really behind the scenes been putting all this stuff together. She is the unsung hero with capital letters across the board. So a big thank you to her and her team. I want to thank Jessica for taking the time today for sure and giving us your insight and input and expertise. And Cole, my man, all I can say to you is keep doing it because we're watching, we're taking notes. I learned a couple of great tips from you today. And so I wish you nothing but success. And we really appreciate you doing the overtime. Once again, send the invoice over to J&L Marketing in Louisville for the extra half hour. Okay. And make sure he pays you every dime you're entitled to.
Cole, we pay in bourbon.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay.
That works. Right. And of course, we got to thank everybody that has been participating here today and watching D win. This is only as exciting as the folks that are participating and also, bringing the content and the information to us. And it makes all the difference in the world. We want to be the number one spot people come to share great ideas, inspiration, and content so that it helps you improve your business each and every week, each and every month, each and every year. And so we're excited that we have a lot more on the docket moving forward, Scott. I want to thank the team over at J&L. As a matter of fact, as I mentioned before, for all your digital marketing needs, contact the folks over at J&L Marketing, www.jnlmarketing.com. They don't just deliver traffic, they're delivering qualified buyers, if that's what you're looking for in the dealership world. And I want to remind you to check out the Killer Closer Blueprint event that I've got on February 19th, which is a Friday at noon. You can go to killercloser.now.site for more information and to register for free. Make sure you tell a friend. And I think that's it, man. I really appreciate everybody, with your time and your effort today.
And so
thank you for having me.
I'm going to say stay on for about 30 to 60 more seconds. Same with you, Jessica, because we do our fourth box hype video. Something that we do that kind of branched off from this because people wanted to keep talking, but they wanted to do it kind of off the record and with a bourbon and cigar. So
way off the record, way off the record. Yes.
So we'll hype this up and then we'll close it down.
Hey, June 22nd, correct? Is that the date, Scott, for the next Fourth Box Live event?
Yes.
June 22nd.
Hey, listen, the Fourth Box isn't for everybody. It's only for those people that want to have fun, have a bourbon, smoke a cigar, and come up with absolutely ingenious business and brainstorming ideas.
I could do this all night long, guys.
I love to be a disruptor.
The first guy that gets that done is the winner.
You can't get any better than this. But don't worry, whatever happens in the Fourth Box stays in the box, baby.
This is some good shit. These notes are big.
All right. I love the little closing part of that video.
Yeah. And by the way, can we give a quick shout out to my man, Mr. Eric Ruby? It is his 50th birthday today, the Big 5-0. He's almost catching up to you, SJ. The Big 5-0. So happy birthday, Eric Ruby.
Happy birthday, Eric. All right. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Cole. We appreciate your time. I'm going to close this out. All right.
See you
Thank
guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
See ya.